Hello. So in this video we're going to tackle the loops exercise. It says create a loop to calculate all expenses for the user, and there are some hints. Create a total expenses variable with uint type, loop over expenses array with for loop, add up all expenses cost, return total expenses, and then it says write the code here. Perfect. So this is a struct, as we can see, and then this is an array of expense objects, that is this expense structs. So here's where an expense is added, and then here's where we can get the total expenses. Now let's write the code to do just that. Create total expenses variable with uint type. Let's do that first. Total width would be initialized as 0. Perfect. So the second thing, so create a total expenses variable with uint type, loop over expenses array with for loop. So let's do just that. And I less than. Now less than what? This should be less than the expenses for this user. Now we need to get the expenses for this user, and I think, okay, so let's comment this for a minute. Let's comment this for a minute. The expenses for this user would be, let's say, expenses where the let's say the software dot user is this user right here. So yes, let's uncomment this. Less than would be the expenses dot length. So here we are trying to say if expenses at the index of I, that is, if this expense, the user of this expense is the user whose address we are passing in, we are getting in right here, then we want to go ahead and add this to the total variable. So add the amount. Then this would be expenses I dot amount, exactly, and then at the end of this all, we're gonna return total. So as add up all expenses cost, we've done that. Return all expenses, which we did right here. Now how does this for loop work? Essentially, I'm not done with this. So I plus plus. Perfect. So how it works is we are looping through the expenses array, which is this array right here. So you can see, first and foremost, we created a uint variable which we named total, and the value here, the default value of a uint variable is 0. So this is the same as doing this explicitly. We can do this, or we can do just this. It's the same thing. It will be implicitly initialized as 0. Now here in this for loop, we are looping through the expenses array. So here we're adding the value of I, that is I plus plus, by 1. We're incrementing by 1, which we initialize here as 0. So here is also the same thing as doing this. So it will be initialized as 0. So in here we say if the current expense, how do you get the current expense? Well, we tap into the index, we tap into this array, and then the expense at the index of I. For instance, we started with I as 0, so we say expenses at the index of I at the index of 0, meaning then we get the user of this dot user. So we are getting the user right here. Then if the user, that is the user's address, is the same as the address we are getting in as the parameter right here, then we are going to go ahead and add the amount, this amount here. We are adding the amount to the total variable right here. So we're going to go through all of the expenses, each and every expense in the expenses variable, but we are only adding the amount of an expense if the expense, if the dot user of the expense is the same as the address we are getting in right here. So after we are done looping through all the expenses and we have added all the amount of the expenses to the total variable, at the end we are returning the variable, the total variable right here, and then that is what this says. That is, it will return a uint. Perfect.